Hi, I'm Marshall. I'm the owner of Going Gear, and I'm here in our store in Smyrna, Georgia. Today we're going to take a look at the Jeff Park Bones. All right, here we are with the three different flavors of one of my all-time favorite knives. I absolutely love this design. This is the Jeff Park Bones, or the Crossbones in the case of the CRKT version of it. So we have the custom handmade version from Jeff Park. We have the mid-tech version of it. And then we have the CRKT version of it. So I had the video on these two pretty much ready to go because we've had the mid-techs in stock for a decent amount of time. And literally today, actually earlier today, we got the Crossbones in. So I was like, well, got to scrap that other video and start over because, as you can see, this is a pretty faithful adaptation of his design. And there's obviously some changes to it, but they did a really good job on the CRKT version. So I wanted to make sure to include it. Another big reason is you guys always complain that my videos are on knives that are really expensive. And there's a very good reason for that. And the reason is they're on knives that I personally really like and that I personally carry. And being the owner of a shop that sells this kind of stuff, I tend to like and carry the more expensive stuff. So I wanted to make sure and include something that is a little bit more on the average person's reasonable price range. So we have the production version from CRKT as well. And I have the packagings in here because I wanted to show you the packaging that they use on the custom and the mid-tech version because it's pretty cool. They have another guy make these, but they're just these cases with this faux alligator skin, but nice flower pattern on the inside. But this is what the custom and the mid-tech versions come in. If you ever see those, it's just kind of a nice addition that they have in there. A lot of makers, I've gotten, $1,000 knives from custom makers in like little poly bags, and they're wrapped up and, thrown in a padded mailer. And I'm like, dude, you got to step your game up if you're charging that much. So let's get the packaging out of the way, and you can get a better idea of how very similar these three knives are. I mean, once you start looking at them, you can obviously pick them out, but just at a glance, you can see that the original design, the custom version, the mid-tech, and then the production version, they did a really good job on reproducing Jeff Park's vision, I guess you want to call it. And if you're not familiar with Jeff Park, he's a really good guy. He's actually been working with Ken Onion in his shop for 15 years or something like that. It's been a pretty long time, so they've been friends for a long time. And this is Jeff Park's first design, and he knocked it out of the park totally. So under the tutelage and under the advisory, I guess, of Ken Onion, you can see what he came up with. So we'll start with the custom version and take a look at it. This is the knife right here that made me fall in love with small and sleek and slender pocket knives. And if you watched any of my relatively recent videos in the past year or so, you know that I have gone kind of small and sleek. There's a couple exceptions here and there, but a lot of the knives that I've been carrying are definitely downsized and down-weighted for sure of the knives that I've been carrying for many, many years. And this is the reason right here. Ken actually showed me this at one of the blade shows. I think it was a couple years ago now, maybe 3 years ago. They showed me the first one that they had made, and I fell in love with it. I was like, that is such a nice design. The action on it was just ridiculous. This honestly has some of the best, snappiest, most reliable action of any knife that I've ever had, production or custom or mid-tech or otherwise. Great action on it. I really like the blade shape. I like the handle. I like the design of it. I was like, dude, that is awesome. So 6 months or so later, I was able to get one from Ken and Jeff at the SHOT Show. But it being a relatively expensive custom knife, that are not easy to get, especially from the man himself. He makes them in pretty small batches, and they go super quickly. I didn't really want to carry it. I'm like, man, this knife is worth so much and it's so nice. I don't want to carry it on a daily basis. So I was super excited when they said that they were going to start working with an American manufacturer and make some mid-tech versions. And let's stop here for just a second. Stop talking about the knives. Well, we'll sort of talk about the knives and talk about production versus mid-tech versus custom. So what do those mean? Well, if you ask 10 different people, you'll probably get 10 slightly different answers. But for me, a custom knife is a guy, a maker that designed the knife, and he made it himself. Yeah, he probably used some CNC machines these days, and he definitely used some mills and some lathes and things like that. There's not many guys out there, although I have totally seen it, where they're out there, totally hand doing everything with hand tools and everything. I've even seen guys that'll do stuff like this with Dremel tools. But most of these guys are using CNC machines, but they're doing it themselves. So the majority of the work, they're doing it themselves. Mid-techs to me are basically custom makers' designs, and quality and tolerances and fit and finish and everything, but they're being made by what is essentially a production company. So they're using these high-end materials, they're using these really cool designs, but it's a production company. The maker himself usually doesn't have any hands on the knives. Maybe they'll do some final fit and finish, they'll do the final grind or things like that. So to me, that's what a mid-tech is. And then a production is obviously going to be your CRKTs and your Benchmays and your Kershaws and those kind of guys that they do a lot of collaborations. So they'll work with these custom makers and they'll make these designs. But obviously, they're going to have their factories overseas or in the U.S. make the knives 100% with zero hands of the custom maker on it at any point, other than the initial design, obviously. So to me, that's what the custom versus mid-tech versus the factory production stuff means. And again, if you ask different people, that's what it means to different people. But anyway, I had the custom version. I was like, man, I don't really want to carry that. It's so nice. And I know I'm totally bad for saying that because I'm like, no shelf queens, carry your knives. They're definitely hard use tools. But this one and the Ken Onion Custom and some other ones that I own, I don't carry them. I baby them for sure. And I know, shame on me for that. But anyway, they had the mid-tech version. I got really excited about it, and we were actually the first dealer for these, so that was really cool. So we picked these up last year, and I've been carrying this one for a while. And you can barely even tell because it has held up so well. But really great fit and finish on the mid-tech version. So they definitely held true to the original design. You're going to find a few differences, especially in the engraving of it. And honestly, the action is slightly different. You do get some better, snappier action on the custom, but it's almost twice the price. It's a lot harder to get, and it is handmade by Jeff Park in Ken Onion's knife shop. So there's something to be said for that. And then you have the production version, which, man, I gotta admit, they did a really good job on it. And that's a big reason that I wanted to include it in the video, because when I saw this at the SHOT Show a couple months ago, I was like, man, they did a fantastic job on this. Great action on it, great fit and finish. Not the high-end materials that you're going to see on the custom version and on the mid-tech version, but still decent materials. And man, look at it. It just looks really nice. They did a really good job on the fit and finish. They did a great job on staying true to his original design. And I'm impressed. I'm really impressed with what CRKT managed to do with this knife. Honestly, they've been stepping it up every year since we've been a dealer. They had a bunch of gimmicky designs years ago, and they still have a few in their lineup. But man, they've been working with some really great designers. You got the Jeff Park, you got Ken Onion, you got Lucas Burnley, Liang Ma, all these really great designers that they're working with. And I know some of them, my other knife maker buddies, are going to be watching this video and be like, dude, how come you didn't drop my name? Sorry, guys, I couldn't drop everybody's name. But they've been doing a really good job on stepping up their quality and their designs and everything over the past several years. So big kudos to CRKT. So that's kind of a quick overview, even though I think I'm at the 7 or 8 minute mark of the knives. Let's talk about the basic specs of them. So they all share the same basic specs in terms of the dimensions and the overall weight and all that kind of stuff. So let's talk about that real quick. So blade length on this, you got 3.5 inches. Open length is 8.1 inches. Closed length on the handle, you've got 4.5 inches. Blade thickness, 0.125 inches. You've got a handle thickness of 0.45 inches. And the blade material on the mid-tech, I know is CPM 154. I know it's AUS 8 on the production version. I'm honestly not sure what it is on the custom. I know Ken Onion's a big fan of CPM 154, so I'll assume that's what it is on this one as well. And then you've got titanium on the handles of these two, and then you've got aluminum on the handle of the CRKT version. Pocket clips are nice and simple and small, and they clip to your pocket really well. They clip on there really securely. You can see you've got enough of a bend in there that you can get it on your pocket really easily, and they stay out of the way. A lot of pocket knives these days have these pocket clips that are 3/4 of the length down the handle, these huge pocket clips, and I don't really like that. I like for mine to be small and stay out of the way. Less of a chance it's going to get caught on something, less of a chance you're going to accidentally brush up against your vehicle and you leave a huge gouge down your paint. So I'm really liking the knives out there that are going towards the smaller, sleeker pocket clips because they're still nice and sturdy. They're still substantial. They're made out of the same material. They just stay out of the way. So I really like that about these pocket clips. So it's kind of a interesting design on those, and you can see just the different versions that they do across the different versions of the knives. The same blade shape on all three different versions. You got that nice kind of subtle upswept version on there. Flat grind, really great edge on all three of them. Even from the CRKT factory version, they did a good job of putting a nice edge on there. The edge on the custom one is crazy, and it's pretty great on the mid-tech one as well. But again, kudos to CRKT for putting a nice edge on there. Different pivot hardware. So obviously you got some pretty cool custom pivot hardware on the custom itself. You got the actual Crossbones logo on there, and then on the other side you got that Torx. And then this one, the mid-tech, has Torx on both sides, and then the CRKT has Torx on one side and then the flat on the other. You can just kind of look at the designs. You got that diamond hatching in there, and then the Crossbones, that's where that name comes from, that design that's in there. And then you've got the backspacer on here, so you've got titanium on the mid-tech and the custom, and they do anodizing pops every now and then on the custom. And then you've got what I assume is aluminum. I don't know if they call it out anywhere on CRKT's website, but the handle I know is aluminum, so I'm assuming this piece back here is aluminum as well. It doesn't have that jimping or machining that the other ones have, but it does have a nice grippy finish the way they anodized and finished that. It's got still a pretty grippy texture. And then there's your lanyard attachment point. If you want to attach a lanyard on there, you've got the lanyard attachment point on all three of them. So for the other hardware on these, you've got the Torx on this side, and they're screwed into the other side. And then on this one, you've got the flat on this side, and then the Torx on this side. So Torx bits are pretty easy to find. You can pick them up at pretty much any hardware store. If you own a decent amount of knives, or if you own any basic tool set, you've got probably the tools that you need to adjust and maintain these knives. So if you want to adjust the pivot, make it tighter, anything like that, it's pretty easy to do if you want to mess with that. So let's take a closer look at some of the details on these. There you've got that custom pivot hardware. There you can see the lockup. So you've got this inset liner lock, or whatever you want to call it. Man, every time I use this knife, I'm like, man, it's so smooth. It's so smooth on there. I love, love, love this knife. A really good lockup on there. No blade play at all in any of the directions. Nice solid lockup that sticks on there. And one thing that I really like about this is that I've touched on this in some other videos, is a lot of times people will use titanium frame locks or liner locks or things like that, and it's super gritty. So when you go against the steel of the blade, you get this gritty feeling and kind of scrapes across there, and it doesn't do that on this at all. It's really smooth getting it off there. Really easy to open and close, and just fantastic action. Super snappy, comes out when you need it to all the time. There you can see that lanyard attachment point or backspacer, whatever that is called on this knife, since it serves a hybrid dual role. Nice, great blade centering on this one. Obviously, that's the custom. Here is the mid-tech. A lot of the same details, so you don't have that same custom hardware on there, but you got that nice bead blasted finish. Great jimping up there on the top. Holds your finger in place really well. In a nice place, not super aggressive. Nice thin blade that's really good for slicing and just doing basic general tasks. Relatively thin tip, so obviously don't try to do any prying or anything like that with this one. Would not be a good idea. But still on the mid-tech, no blade play on it. Great action on it. You still got that great lock bar that locks in place really well, and then it's easy to disengage, but then locks in place. You can see great lockup, and then easy to disengage. You don't have that grinding, scraping that you get from some other manufacturers. So you can see the details of the machining. Some really cool machining on here. That diamond crosshatch pattern. Your pocket clip back there. And then finally, we have the production version from CRKT. And you can see they did, again, a really good job on this. I know I've said that a few times, but man, they did. They did a great job on keeping it very similar to the original design of the production and the mid-tech. There's a couple small changes, so like they don't have that cutout on the flipper like they had on the other versions, and a little bit different finish, so they went with a more kind of shinier finish on the Crossbones part here versus the kind of satin brushed finish that they had on the other two. And then no jimping on the back here, but that's not a big deal. And you guys still got some nice jimping up there where your thumb is going to rest. And then you got the jimping on the flipper portion. So you still got really good action on this. So you've got IKBS. Let's zoom out just a little bit so you can see that better. So still really good action on this, especially considering this is made overseas. You know, it's not the most expensive knife in the world. Using IKBS, so it's got that going for it for sure. I really like IKBS knives. I love bearing knives, especially on flippers. Great action on it. Really easy to get it out there. The detent breaks at just the right place. It doesn't come out there super easily, so you put a little bit of pressure on it, and it just flies out. It's honestly really difficult to make this not deploy properly because they tuned it really well. They got the detent in the right place, and the IKBS bearings help it just fly open. So if you've never maintained IKBS bearings, that is something worth noting. One of the things that I can definitely recommend is do it over a small container. And when you take your knife apart, get a piece of tape, get a piece of masking tape or packing tape or something like that, and just slap it down on those bearings, pick them all up at the same time, because losing those little individual bearings can be a pain in the booty. Definitely don't do it over a carpet. And again, do it on some sort of tray or something, so if a bearing happens to fall, then you can get it really easily. If you're like me or the average person, you probably do not maintain your knives very much, so I don't want to scare you off. It's definitely not necessary. Unless you're just, grinding this thing in sand and dirt, then maybe you'll need to get in there and clean it out. But I so very rarely maintain and clean my knives in the aspect of taking it apart and messing with the bearings and messing with the pivots and stuff like that. It's not really necessary unless you're doing something you honestly probably shouldn't be doing with the knife anyway. But just to know that it is relatively easy to do, and you can mess with the bearings. You can get them out and get them back in without too much fuss. It's something nice to know about knives because it is a tool. It's something that knowing about the maintenance of it is always something useful, in my opinion, at least. So again, that's the CRKT version. I think they did a fantastic job on it. Great job on it. I'm very impressed by what CRKT did with Jeff Park's design. So that is the Jeff Park's Bones and Crossbones. We got the production, we got the mid-tech, we got the custom version of it, even got another custom version over here. They've been doing some cool stuff with anodizing in the shop. This is the mini Bones. I don't know if they'll ever be doing a mid-tech or a production version of it. This is the little baby Bones. And they even had a Jum Bones, which is a big, I think close to 15-inch total length or something like that, as this massive version. So they've been doing some pretty neat stuff with this design. I'm excited to see where they go next with it. So the custom version is not easy to find. You're not going to find them from us. They make them in really small batches. Follow them on Facebook if you want to get one of these, or you can pay the secondary market prices, which are getting pretty crazy high. But they are available out there. You can get them, but they're just not super easy to find. The mid-techs we have currently at goinggear.com. So you can get the mid-techs from us at goinggear.com. They are less expensive than the production, and you get a lot of that same quality and materials and everything. And you have the CRKT version, which again, as of today, we have these in stock. We have a decent amount of them, and I'll make sure to keep a decent amount of them in stock because I highly recommend the design. I really like it. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a knife that isn't in my typical $300-400 price range of the videos that I normally do. This is definitely a good one to go after. Full retail on this is $100, and obviously the street price is going to be cheaper than that. We have them cheaper than that. And yeah, you can get these two from us at goinggear.com. Any questions or comments, you can reach me in the comments. As always, get going and start something. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Marshall. I'm the owner of...